The braided steel of the primary tether didn't snap with a dramatic explosion. It parted with a dull, heavy thrum that Leo felt in the marrow of his shin bones before he heard it through the conduction of his suit. In the vacuum, sound is a ghost that only travels through what you touch. And right now, Leo was touching nothing. "EVA-2 to Commander," Leo said. His voice sounded remarkably flat in his own ears. "Training takes over when the universe breaks. We have a structural failure on the umbilical. I am adrift."
EVA-2, repeat?
The voice of Commander Sarah Wilson, his wife, currently sitting 300 meters away inside the belly of the Hermes, was marred by the hiss of solar radiation.
Your telemetry just spiked. Leo, your tracking grid is dropping.
"The cable is gone, Sarah. A micrometeorite likely. Clean shear." Leo forced his chest to expand slowly. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Every gasp of panic was a liter of oxygen traded for a faster death. "The safer unit is dead. No pressure in the nitrogen tanks. I am moving away."
We're calculating intercept,
she said. Her voice had gone tight, a high-frequency wire stretched to the breaking point.
Keep your eyes on the station, Leo. Keep talking to me.
But the Hermes was already spinning. Not because the station was moving, but because Leo was. The conservation of momentum had caught him in a lazy, head-over-heels tumble. First came the blinding, white-hot glare of the sun, bouncing off the station's solar arrays until his visor's gold film tinted it to a dull bronze. Then came the deep, bruised curvature of the Earth, a brilliant blue crescent fading into the night side, where the golden webs of human cities glittered like synapses. And then came the void. It was the blackness that got to him. On Earth, black is just the absence of light. It has a texture, a wall, a ceiling. In deep space, the blackness is a depth. It felt like an inverted mountain that he was falling down, forever and ever, without the courtesy of a bottom to smash against. "Distance is 50 meters, Leo reported. He didn't look at his wrist display. He didn't want to see the numbers. "I can see the radiators. I can see the docking port."
We're trying to fire the attitude thrusters on the Hermes.
Sarah's voice cracked. The static was thicker now, a wet, rhythmic pulsing. "Shh, talk. Shh, talk."
The software it's locked out, Leo. It's refusing the manual override. Hang on. Please, just hang on.
"Don't waste the fuel, Sarah." He didn't say what they both knew. The Hermes was an interplanetary transport ship, a massive iron beast that took kilometers to turn and hours to burn its main engines. It wasn't a speedboat. You didn't just turn it around to pick up a stray fisherman. By the time the ship could move, he would be a kilometer into the dark, a human satellite with a dead radio. The sun disappeared behind the Earth. Total eclipse. The temperature outside his suit plummeted to minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside, the heating coils in his undergarments hummed, a tiny, fragile cage of warmth against the absolute zero of the universe. O2 level, 8.4% CO2, partial pressure, rising. The first hallucination arrived with the smell of burnt toast. It was an old neurological trick. Leo knew the symptoms of hypercapnia by heart, the accumulation of carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. First comes the phantom scent, then the tingling in the fingertips, then the widening of the peripheral vision until everything looks like it's being shot through a fisheye lens.
Leo?
Sarah's voice was so distant now it sounded like it was buried under 10 feet of wet sand.
Do you copy?
"I smell the kitchen, Sarah," Leo said. He laughed, a loose, bubbly sound that wet the inside of his microphone. "Did you leave the bread in? The little toaster with the loose handle. I told you we needed to throw that thing out."
Leo, stay with me. Focus on my voice.
"The stars aren't staying still, Sarah," he murmured. He stopped, tumbling. or rather his brain stopped registering the motion. He felt perfectly stationary now, suspended in a block of dark amber. But the stars, the hard, unblinking points of light that shouldn't move, were shifting. They were drifting together like oil droplets on the surface of water, pooling into clusters. "They're gathering," Leo said, his voice dropping to a gravelly register. "Like people around a campfire. It's beautiful, really. They're making shapes."
Leo, listen to me.
Sarah was crying now. It was the first time he had heard her cry since her father died.
The rescue drone is launching. It's an automated pod. It's coming for you. Just keep your beacon on.
He didn't care about the pod. The stars were no longer stars. The clusters had formed massive geometric lines across the dark, lines that didn't conform to any constellation he had studied at the academy. They were non-Euclidean angles that made his eyes ache to look at, bending inward and outward at the same time. And where the lines met, the blackness wasn't empty anymore. It was thick. It had a wet, iridescent sheen like the skin of a deep-sea squid brought to the surface. "There's something behind the dark, Sarah," Leo whispered. His breath was coming in short, shallow puffs now. His lips felt numb. "We thought it was empty. We thought we were the only things out here. We were so stupid. We built our little tin cans and thought we were swimming in a pool. But it's an ocean, and the water is alive." The static on the radio changed. It wasn't the hiss of solar wind anymore. It was a rhythm. 3 short pulses, 1 long. Tap, 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 thump. It sounded like a finger knocking on the outside of his helmet.
Leo, you're hallucinating.
Sarah's voice screamed through the interference, a tiny, desperate insect trying to pull him back to reality.
The CO2 levels are toxic. You're experiencing sensory deprivation. Close your eyes.
"I can't," Leo croaked. He couldn't. His eyelids felt pinned open. Out in the absolute dark, miles beyond the reach of the sun, a light grew. It wasn't white or yellow or blue. It was a color that sat just outside the human spectrum, a sickening, bruised hue that tasted like copper in his mouth. The geometric lines of stars began to pull back like a curtain being drawn, and through the tear in the universe, an eye opened. It wasn't an eye with a pupil or a lens. It was a massive, undulating pit of shifting pale rings, miles across, spinning in opposite directions. It didn't look at him. It was simply aware of him. It was the difference between a human looking at a microbe through a microscope and a human simply stepping on an ant without ever knowing it was there. The scale of it crushed Leo's mind. The sheer, impossible geometry of the thing made his memories of Earth, of his house, of his career, of Sarah, feel like a drawing done by a child in the dirt, easily washed away by the first rain. Then came the pressure. The outside of his suit didn't buckle, but he felt it, a massive, cold weight pressing against his chest, as if the vacuum itself had become dense, heavy, and wet. The suit's external sensors began to chime, a frantic, high-pitched alarm that shouldn't be possible. External pressure, 0.1 pounds per square inch, 0.5 pounds per square inch, 1.2 pounds per square inch. There was no air in space. There was nothing to create pressure, yet the digital readout on his wrist was climbing, tracking the weight of whatever was pressing against him. "Sarah!" Leo choked out. The carbon dioxide had turned his blood to vinegar. His vision was almost gone, reduced to a pinhole of that terrible, nameless color. "The pod! Tell the pod to turn back!"
Leo, we see the pod on the radar. It's 2 minutes away from you. Leo!
"Don't let it open the door," he whispered. Through the golden tint of his visor, he didn't see the stars anymore. He saw a shape, a massive, pale hand with too many joints stretching out from the center of the spinning rings, reaching down into the cold to pick him up like a pebble from a beach. He felt the cold fingers close around his torso, not through the fabric of the suit, but through the metal, through his skin, touching his very ribs with a frost that burned. The radio didn't die. It was overridden. Sarah's voice was cut off, replaced entirely by the sound of a million voices all speaking at once, a chaotic, overlapping chorus of every person who had ever died in the dark, every sailor lost at sea, every explorer who went into the woods and never came out. They weren't screaming. They were singing. A low, droning hymn that filled his skull until his ears bled against the foam of his headset. "The air is fine," Leo said, his final words recorded by the black box as his heart gave its last erratic flutter. "The air out here is just fine. You just have to learn how to breathe the dark." On the telemetry screen inside the Hermes, the medical monitor for EVA-2 went flatline. 3 minutes later, the automated recovery pod reached the last known coordinates of Captain Leo Wilson. The pod's external cameras recorded the scene for the official accident report. The suit was there, drifting perfectly still against the black. But when the pod's mechanical arm reeled the suit into the airlock and the crew pressurized the chamber, they found it empty. The seals on the gloves were intact, the helmet was locked and bolted, the oxygen tanks were still filled with 4% of their emergency reserve. The only thing inside the suit was a cupful of freezing, stagnant seawater, and a single pale feather from a bird that no one on Earth could identify.